Hi everyone, my name's Scott and welcome to Planes, Trains, Everything. What am I up to now, you ask? Well, it's 9:30 at night and I'm walking between the town of Kirkwall in the Orkney Islands to a ferry terminal about 2 miles in that direction. Why am I doing that? Well, I thought the other day I can only think of 3 ferry routes in the UK, domestic ferry routes, which operate overnight. There are plenty of European ones and ones to and from Ireland, but solely within the United Kingdom I can only think of 3. One is the Orkney Islands to Aberdeen, one is the Shetland Islands to Aberdeen, and one is between the Orkney Islands and the Shetland Islands. And they're all operated by a company called Northlink Ferries. Today you and I are going to be catching one of these ferries from Kirkwall in the Orkney Islands to Aberdeen. Now this has been on my bucket list for many years. Why? Because the ferries look great. They're white and they have this whopping big Viking on the side. What is there not to love about a ferry company like that? Anyway guys, I'll see you when we get to the ferry terminal. This actually reminds me of the ferry trip I did between Dublin and Holyhead in Wales. If you haven't seen that video, there is a link below. I had to walk through a rather sketchy industrial area to get to the port. And the same thing's happening here. But this area is completely dead. At least at Dublin at 11 o'clock at night there were some trucks and things going around, but here there's no sign of life. The sooner I get to this ferry terminal the better. The things I do for YouTube, honestly. Okay, good news, I've spotted the ferry terminal in the distance. I've had to put my hat on because it is absolutely bitter tonight. There's a stiff old northerly wind blowing. And just in case you didn't realise, Kirkwall in the Orkney Islands is roughly the same latitude as Stockholm, St. Petersburg in Russia, Skagway, Alaska, and Churchill, Manitoba. Although I'm pretty sure it doesn't get as cold as Churchill. Anyway, we should be there in about 15 minutes. Time for a coffee, time to warm up. This ferry access road isn't very well signposted. In fact, there are no signposts at all, but I think we're here. The woman at the car check-in office said, as I'm a foot passenger, just walk to the end of the pier. I guess she means stop before I get to the end, but yeah. I don't think it's arrived yet. That's probably why I can't see it. That's a pretty zippy looking ferry, but that's not ours. Like I said, a giant Viking. How cool is that? Now that's pretty cool, you must admit. You don't get that close to a ferry without being on it.
Perfect.
Sure.
Lovely.
It's upstairs. Thank you. Some of these crossings must be rough. They have to anchor down the seats. One thing I've noticed, no shortage of sickness bags. They're everywhere. Every little corner, every nook and cranny, sickness bags. Hopefully we won't need them tonight. This is the only part of the ferry where you can step outside. It's the smoking area. And it's at the very front of the ship. I was checking the weather report and the forecast is dry, 3 degrees Celsius, but with the wind chill factor feeling more like -3 Celsius. But that's not taking into consideration the speed of the ship. I reckon it's going to be bracing tonight, definitely bracing. I was just standing here looking at the shimmering lights of Kirkwall and I was wondering, why is there a lack of decks on this ship? And I'm thinking, if they were specifically made for this route, then let's face it, who in their right mind would want to be out here experiencing the air on the North Sea? It must be freezing at the best of times. That's probably why. I didn't opt for a cabin. I've got one of the reclining seats because I know I'm not going to sleep either way. There are only 2 decks available to the public, Deck 5 and Deck 6. Deck 5 is where I am, Deck 6 is where all the cabins are. There's not much happening, so I might just try and find my reclining seat and get some rest. I'll see you in the morning. It's about 6 AM and everyone's still asleep. I've only been out here for a couple of minutes and I'm shivering already. It's so cold. It's about 6 AM. We should be arriving into Aberdeen in about an hour. I was hoping to get some breakfast, but the restaurant's not open. There was an announcement at 6 AM that breakfast was being served, so I appeared at 6:01 for the full Scottish. The announcement also said we're arriving into Aberdeen at 7:30, so we're arriving around about 30 minutes late. It was a little bit rough last night. despite the tossing and turning in the middle of the night, and that was quite a rough crossing at one point. I managed to nap for about 3 hours. That really surprised me because I don't usually sleep when I'm on the move. Now here's an interesting observation. If you're sailing down the east coast of Scotland, you would expect to see land on the right side of the ship. But we woke to land on the left side of the ship, which makes me think that the captain has done a big J, almost like a nautical version of a holding pattern, possibly because the harbour was busy. He then had to reverse the ferry into the harbour, like putting thread through the eye of a needle. This was an impressive manoeuvre, I'll tell you. And we arrived an hour late, so that would probably explain why the holding pattern. Anyway guys, thanks very much for crossing that off my bucket list. I'm so glad I've done it now, and I'm glad you guys came along with me as well. Please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.